Howdy everyone, and welcome to the Movo TX Gear Review channel. Today we are at the Gear Review Hilltop today, and I apologize, I'm not actually out on the ledge or out close to a better view here, but I had to kind of hoof it on back in behind the brush a bit because it's so windy and my camera doesn't do a very good job recording wind audio, wind noise. So thanks for tuning in today. I want to talk to you about knives and where I'm at with the knives I've been using on my backpacking trips and camping, as well as EDC. So today we're going to review my Schrade SCHF37M. This is the fixed blade camp knife that I've had for 3 years now, since 2015. So I am a purchasing consumer, like everything on my channel, and I bought this on Amazon.com in 2015, I believe. So at the time, it was being sold for about 5 or 6 months, and I've bought it, I've used it, beat on it pretty good over the years. No real major complaints at all about it. So I think back in 2015 when I paid for it, I think the biggest complaints were the blade stock being crooked or bowed out of box, and that was really the first thing I checked when I got it. And mine was ruler straight, and today still remains ruler straight, no problems there. So it's heavy, it's big, it's heavy, it's capable, and with that being said, it's not my favorite knife to carry, but it does fill a purpose, fill a need. So let's see, I think Schrade since day one really has gotten a bad rap for their sheaths, and there's no details or nothing different here in that regard too. It's a basic utility grade budget sheath. It's kind of dirty, kind of rusted, and it served me very well, although it's pretty cheap and pretty basic here really. So you're seeing it here, it's kind of tattered and worn pretty good over the past 3.5 years, and that's because it's illegal to conceal carry a fixed blade knife in California. So everywhere I carry it, I simply have to open carry it, either dangle it off my belt or hang it off my pack somewhere, but it has to be open carried. So that being said, it's been perfectly serviceable. So the belt loop, despite being cheap Velcro, it's held up decently well, and the retention strap here has also held up very well over the years too. Okay, it's a snap-in variety, so it's held in very well, no problems there. I've never had a problem with the knife falling out or feeling like it's going to fall out. It's always been very secure in that regard. So clearly, obviously, it's not box stock. So the first thing I did was I removed the black powder coat paint finish. It was just simply too rough and too coarse of a texture for a knife coating, and so I masked it off, and I used Jasco paint stripper and aerosol paint stripper and just removed it off completely. And I left just a little bit here on the handle area and the finger choil area, and it served me very well, and I have no real complaints there. So it's a hollow ground 8CR13 MOV stainless steel, and you know, 8CR13 is nothing really special or spectacular. It's a kind of generic China origin steel, and it's not the hardest material in the world, but it's not the softest either, and it holds an edge decently well, serviceably well, I should say. So what you're seeing here is the knife after a weekend of camping, and we made about 2 or 3 campfires with this, splitting wood and paring down wood, taking baseball bat size, paring it down into broomsticks and broom handles, and a little bit of feather sticking as well. So I haven't resharpened it or retouched it up really since then. So you're seeing it here, basically like worst case scenario after a weekend of heavy use. Okay, so that being said, it's held up remarkably well despite the abuse I've put it through. So it's been jammed into wood knots really seriously and severely, to the point where it's kind of scuffed out the blade and marred it up and given it a real Boba Fett look, kind of, or Millennium Falcon kind of look, however you want to call it. And I have really no complaints. I mean, 8CR13 MOV is cheap, and it's good enough. You know, for 45 bucks that I paid for it, can't really complain about that. You know, it's not a super steel, it's not a boutique steel or anything really praiseworthy, but it's a serviceable material for what it does. Okay, probably the biggest deficiency as a log splitter is the grind. So it's a half hollow grind with a 20-degree edge bevel on it, and there's some pros and cons with that. The biggest con really is the fragility of the tip. So you can kind of see that there, how slender that tip is. So any sort of stab splitting for wood, or any sort of tip hollowing, you're going to have to be careful with that tip. You don't want it to crack or break on you or anything like that. So I think the biggest complaint, again, about people had was, again, the blade being bowed or crooked, and that's because of the heat treat. So heat treating is one of the more difficult aspects of knife making, whether it's a cheap, high volume, Asia origin product or something more custom. A good heat treat is, can be difficult at times. So that being said, I have not had any problems with the heat treat on this knife. I've really thumped on it, beat on it pretty hard, and I've never had any problems with fracturing or edge rolling or anything of that sort. So the only time I think had a minor fracturing problem with it was when we were beach camping and I was batoning through driftwood, and I put some chips, like granules of sand, managed to fracture and chip the edge bevel just a little bit, but nothing really serious at all. Nothing I couldn't reprofile and grind out and fix back without any problem or any difficulty. So okay, so what can I say? It's little over a pound of steel, so it's actually fairly heavy, and along with that weight comes some pretty robust durability. So I don't really have any complaints about that. You can get this model. Now, this is the micarta, the canvas micarta handle version, but there's a lot of different iterations of this knife. I think there's a 1095, even carbon steel version of it, and there's definitely like molded plastic handles and things like that. I like the canvas micarta simply because the grip and the texture when it's wet is actually really, really good, and I think it's easier to grasp and grip onto when it's wet. So that's actually pretty good, no problems there. The handle stock, the steel, is actually skeletonized inside here. So I guess for weight reduction they do that, but it's not so fragile that you can't really thump on it and beat on it with your wood baton. So the handle itself is not the most ergonomic thing. It's got this aggressive jimping on it, which a lot of people complain about, and it's actually not the largest handle either. Okay, so if you're using your knife like an axe or a hatchet and you're swinging, you're probably going to want a different knife with a larger pommel or a larger handle on it. Okay, so I'm simply using it as a wood batoning tool, and I simply don't need a huge handle to achieve that. Okay, I'm simply a-okay with some gloves on and batoning with the handle that's really this shape. It's not overbuilt really, or excessive, in that sense. So it helps to keep the weight down, and when you're dangling it off your belt, it also helps to keep the pommel of the handle fairly compact, so it's not this huge mass hanging off your hip belt. Okay, so the accessory pouch has been pretty serviceable. It's kind of worn, you're seeing it kind of frayed a bit here. This has been drugged and dragged across all kinds of rock formations and hard packed trail conditions and that kind of thing. Here's the ferro rod. This is not the stock ferro rod, by the way. The kit comes with a really nice ferro rod, and I lost that a long time ago, but this is a Coghlan's one. Actually, the best ferro rod strike surface I found is the pommel area of the knife. Okay, pretty good. Of course, you can use the spine of the steel. Okay, no problems there either. So, okay, so this has been pretty well used at this point, as you can tell. So, okay, so that's pretty much it. Let's see, as far as maintaining an edge, I use, the knife came with a diamond plate sharpener. Now I use this Fiskars or Gerber, this is actually a Gerber, ceramic draw tool, a draw sharpener. I like it simply because I simply hold on to it, brace it on the ground somewhere or on my pack, and I simply hold it steady and draw my knife through to sharpen it. I don't really use it that much, but every now and then I find it necessary to touch up the edge, and I find this works very, very well for limited use. Now obviously when I get home I use a different sharpener than this, but this very comfortably fits inside the accessory pouch just like that, and my ferro rod goes back in there with it without any problems. In fact, you can see here the ferro rod is starting to wear through and abrade through the accessory pouch, but that's good enough. Okay, so thanks for tuning in today, guys. Hope you guys find this review useful. Please feel free to post comments and questions down below, and I'll catch you guys later. Everybody stay safe out there and enjoy the outdoors.